Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Yeah. Man, I tell you what, I just want to rap. Every time, I don't even know what the word says. I just want to start making up my own words and see what happens, see what happens. But anyways, this is your hostess with the mostest. This is PKR. This is Pastor Keenan Riley back with another episode of People Suck, Love Them Anyways, with the sirens in the background saying, warning, warning, you better download this podcast because it is hot.
I was just warning you not to rap.
Yeah, it could be, man. I don't know. It's like if you rap,
like
I'll take you to jail.
They hear the word raps and they immediately pull out their batons.
And if you are looking for someone to bring a damper to your day, I do have a sidekick, a co-host. His name's Nicky Nick, and he will definitely put some dampness on your day. I feel like some darkness. Or maybe just, bring you back down to a shocking reality, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people say, it's either realism or pessimism. I think it's somebody chooses one of the two and they describe me. But I try to be funny. I try to make people laugh.
You try to be funny in a negative kind of way, maybe. It's like it's kind of like a roller coaster with us, because I'm like and like getting you to the top, and then it's like. And it's like we'll come crashing back down, and here we are, So, nonetheless, we are thankful to be doing another episode of People Suck, Love Them Anyways. We took last week off. Nothing more than just scheduling conflict. It was really about the only excuse we could give you is that we just we were doing everything else, and we did not have time to be able to tape an episode last week, and but hey, I tell you what, man. Maybe, I was telling Nick, maybe we need to take a day or two off every now and again because Nick has some exciting news that he's going to share with you just because I can't pronounce half of what's going on. And I'm going to put that responsibility on him and let him take care of it. So, right. Nick, tell the people at home, tell the people traveling, tell the people abroad, tell the people in the world, man. We got world listeners.
Worldwide.
Yeah. How many people we got going on or where these people are at now listening?
Yeah, we won't talk about how many people, but we'll talk about where they're from.
Yeah, that's
we got a few new countries added listening into the podcast, which is pretty great. I don't know what the heck that was, but
that was me trying to find flavor in an energy drink, man.
There's a lot of flavor in those things. It was like sour pink lemonade. It smacked me in the face when I drank out of it.
It was beautiful, man.
Anyway, so we added about 5 new countries this last week, which is pretty great considering we didn't have an episode last week.
Man.
We added Bolivia, Cuba, Romania, New Zealand, and Laos.
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 I made the joke, and I don't think Nick thought it was funny, but I thought it was like singular version of lice, like one louse, like we found a louse, on your head.
I don't know. No.
You don't. You didn't go to elementary school back in the day, bro. I mean, what happened to you? Like y'all did.
I hear the word lice, and I just want to burn a house down.
Yeah, but you were in a different era. I forget, man. To all my '80s babies out there, maybe a little bit before. Like we used to in elementary school, man. This guy from the health department used to come, and they would line us up like out in the hallway or in the classroom, man. And like I can remember, it was like chopsticks and some white gloves. You know what I mean?
See, I remember I was in elementary school, and we all crowded into a very small closet in the PE teachers. So they checked your heads too? Well, they did, but what I'm talking about is we watched a video about it, like on one of those rollout carts, right? That big old tube TV on a rollout cart, but we pushed the rollout cart in a closet, basically.
They showed y'all a video?
Yeah, we show a video, and then I remember the PE teacher, she'd be like, now all y'all's heads gonna be itching after this, but we gotta watch it anyway.
Oh yeah, man, that was always the worst.
It was interesting, but then I think the guidance counselor is actually the one that checked all of us for lice back then.
We actually had a dude that would come from like I said, from the health department and would check every kid's head and. It was like I hate to say this, but it was like the walk of shame, man. It was like
or what's even worse is when they watched you go in, but then you didn't come out.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like the walk of shame. It's like you go back in and you sit down, and you're like, where's Adam? And it's like, Adam didn't make the cut. Sorry, Adam had a louse.
He had one louse.
He had one louse, and now Adam's downloading in louse. So there you go. Nonetheless, we bring that joke full circle, and there we are. But again, thank you guys so much, man. And honestly, what does that bring our country count to?
I think 33.
So we got 33 countries and 35 states. Is that right?
36 states.
36 states, man. So we are literally creeping in on our state count with different countries, man, which to me, I was thinking about this today, Nick. I was thinking, like, and I'm just going to say this, but like maybe it's showing how much more hungry people are abroad versus what they are here in the U.S.
Yeah. Y'all Americans got to step up.
Oh, man, it's, stop being lazy, man. Hit that download button. But no, man, I mean, I was just thinking, like, like to have the gospel readily available here. We have it at our fingertips. It's on our phones. It's, we can do audio versions. We can download podcasts. We can read books. We can like we have so much information just hitting us right in the face here in the U.S., man, that it's like we just become, lazy. It's like it's at our fingertips, so it's like we know that it's there if we want it, if we need it, if we got to have it, And then in these different countries, man, that are hitting this download button on the podcast, some of those don't have that luxury. They don't have the luxury of having a Bible in their hands or something like that, man. Like they maybe they're, who knows? They might be hitting the download button at a public library or something, man. I mean, like that's crazy to think about, but like, for us, man, I think like, as far as like U.S. goes, I think we don't know. We don't have a clue as to how good we have it here and how lazy we've become because of how good we do have it, Yeah,
we neglect, I guess we neglect the importance. I'm going to say the importance, or I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. It's just like we get so used to seeing it all over the place that we just become numb to it, I guess.
What, the importance of the gospel?
Well, like
of the
we
Bible?
just the importance of like how, I don't want to say, I think importance isn't the right word, is what I was trying to say. I was like, I think it's more so like,
you had a Keenan moment.
Yeah, right.
You just started throwing words
out there, not knowing what they meant or anything
just
like that.
Word vomit all
Borrow your
over
thesaurus
it,
or something.
Yeah.
But I think it's just more so like we become numb to it. I think is the word I was trying to go to. Like we see it everywhere, and we neglect the thought that there are places out there that don't have. Like I think we attribute what we have here in America to the entire world.
Yeah.
Like we see what we have here, and we expect everybody in the entire world to have that access, to be able to do that, hear that, listen to that, see that. And so we become, it's kind of that like first world mindset, like we talk about like first world problems or things that only first world people tend to encounter, like Starbucks being out of like vanilla
right
syrup or something,
but
out
of some whipped cream.
Yeah, but I mean, like just those types of things, I think that in America, and I do think just worldwide the gospel is more readily available than it's ever been.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
I do think that is true as well. But I do think that there are countries, like the United States, who have much more access to it, and because of that, we become numb to the fact that other places in the world don't have that access.
Right, and I think we're less appreciative or unappreciative of it. That's the thing about it. Where I think a couple of weeks ago I was talking about from the stage about how we can get in such a routine of doing things that it's just not even important anymore. It feels like we just show up. We show up to church. We show up to work. We show up to ball games. We show up to whatever, and it's like it's become so routine that like you said, I don't even know if it's the fact of that we've allowed ourselves to become numb. It's just the fact of that it's so routine that it's like we don't even. It's like we could do it with our eyes closed. We could do it just not even knowing. Not even like we. It's just so one foot in front of the other anymore, and.
More sirens,
man. Like yeah. So, and that seems routine.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of episodes with sirens, which the church is by the police station, but still, like it's
they're
also
never there. So
yeah, right, true, yeah. But we're also on Main Street of the town we're in too. So I guess maybe that has a little something to do with it, but. I just got to thinking about that, about how in America and even in the times we're in, man, I feel like we take so much for granted because it's right there at our fingertips. And I'm as guilty as the next person. Like I'm from the country, and when I mean country, like I'm like out in the sticks. Your neighbors, the people beside of you, around you. The next house is like 2 miles down the road, things like that. More cows than people, that type of country. But the thing about being in the country is it's quiet. You know your neighbors. You don't have to worry about too much, things like that. But you know what? It's so inconvenient because when you want something to eat, or when you got to go to the grocery, or when you need to get gas and things like that, like you better get them on the way home because you're going to have to drive 10, 15, 20 minutes to get back to Publix somewhere. You know, to get back to God's creation again. And so as I get older, now I live about 3 minutes from town. And as I get older, like I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to live that far out again or not because of convenience.
Yeah, I sure don't.
Right? Yeah, right. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know, we get so, I feel like we just get so comfortable in having things so like at our fingertips that it's just like, I can't do without it. You know, I can't. But we also become, again, unappreciative because it's like there's so many options, there's so much stuff, you know. To me, I mean, that's why I feel like, you know, in third world countries, people are sneaking to go to church. People are going by the dead of night, riding in trucks under blankets, trying to get to church. And in America, we're changing churches every 6 months because somebody made us mad.
Yep.
And that, to me, man, that's where I'm saying, like, that's where I'm coming from with the whole appreciation type situation, where it's like these countries that are hitting the download button, that are listening, you know, might be these people who don't get that gospel on a daily basis, and they finally tuned in and they're like, well, I like these guys. They're different. They're edgy. They're you know, they're telling me about Jesus. I'm learning, and you know, I mean, for us in America, man, I truly feel like we have to find that fire, that passion, that desire again, to be able, not just that, but the church in general has to find that fire, passion, and desire again, not to, you know, build bigger buildings or to build more buildings or to, you know, do things like that. But I feel like just to be appreciative of what we get to do on Sundays, on Wednesdays, and just really every day, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, in America specifically, you know, that as Christians, I mean, just as normal everyday people, we can get so used to how life goes that we just get in the rhythm of things. You know, I always think about, there was this cartoon called Fairly Odd Parents, like on Nickelodeon and stuff, and there was this one of the episodes, like Timmy, the little main character, was walking around in a circle so long that he created a rut.
Yeah,
and I think about that every time I feel complacent, every time I feel like life is just, you know, Groundhog Day. Like I feel like I'm just walking myself in that circle, just getting deeper and deeper and deeper, just walking in that circle over and 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 over. Yeah. And I think that's something that we can do, and we have to make sure that we are, I think, number one, aware of that. Not to get too complacent, because when we get complacent, and you know, it's like momentum is such a hard thing to get in the first place. Like to
but
get
not
momentum,
only get, but to keep.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think, you know, when we get complacent, it's very easy to lose that momentum because we become comfortable in that. What in the world is that?
That's a siren we've never heard before, man.
Sorry, everybody.
But we just got to stop and be like,
I thought the church was on fire or something.
Like, are they coming up the steps at us? I mean, what's happening right now?
Anyway, so I think, again, it's very easy for us to get complacent in any part of life, and you know, as hard as momentum is to get, it's even harder to keep,
right?
Because it's so easy to just sit there and get used to what you're doing. You know, I mean, we sit here. It seems like we talk about it all the time. It seems like every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Tuesday night, usually, you know, we're in here doing the exact same thing. We have the same schedule of events. You know, come in, turn the lights on, go upstairs, turn the lights on, turn the camera, put the camera, you know, turn the cameras on, put the slideshow thing up there, the projector. You know, it just seems like we're always just doing the same things over and over and over and over and over. And that's just, again, that moment that was hitting me. Just, you know, I think this last week or so, you know, I just feel like, you know, I'm ready. I think it's that moment where it's just like I'm ready to see change, but I don't know what to do to get there. And it's just like, you know, I want to step out of that rut. I want to climb out of there, but it's almost like it's going to take a 10-foot ladder to get out of the hole that I've tucked myself in. But I think that's just something important for everybody to keep in mind, is that you can get complacent, not just in, you know, your church life, but, you know, in your professional life and your family life. You know, I think it's important to kind of mix things up in your marriage, your relationship, things with your kids. You know, try to get out, do something different, step out, and you know, I think complacency is definitely. And we talk about comfortability and complacency a lot in this podcast, and how it's kind of horrible. But you know, I think it's just something that we need to make sure, again, that we're number one aware of, and that we are trying to get out of.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I think small changes can bring deeper appreciation. You know, what you were talking about getting out of ruts and things like that. and I've talked about this before, whether it be through fitness or or whether it be through just life in general or things like that. But it's like you're not going to get back every mistake that you've made in one day. You're not going to lose 50 pounds in one day. You're not going to it's just not going to happen in one day. And honestly, if it did, and you could correct and fix everything in one day, then I go back to I don't think you would be appreciative of it. It's like you dig the hole, but then you have to climb out, and it's through the climbing that you make small adjustments and you make small changes. And then it's like whenever you actually start to see that daylight at the top and you're like, oh, my God, I'm getting closer. That's where I really think that you start to really, in fact, you might even climb faster then. It's like motivation, momentum, things like that. Again, momentum's hard to keep, but I think whenever you make those small changes and things like that, it's I think that's where you begin to kick it into a higher gear and see what happens. And we've had 2 weeks here of I feel like, man, I love the book of Acts. I really do. And I got to preach last Wednesday, or this past Wednesday, I guess. My favorite Bible story is Acts 27, Paul and the shipwreck. And then Sunday we preached about Paul on the island of Malta. And, a lot of change took place and just transition in just those two Bible stories. You're talking about a huge storm. You're talking about a ship falling apart. You're talking about going to an island that they weren't even slated to be at, but, the storm drove them there. You're talking about a snake biting Paul. You're talking about, just a lot of different things, man, that went on. And it's like adversity and things like that, but still you have to keep the momentum going. And the momentum was started by him setting sail to go to Rome to stand trial before Caesar. That's the momentum, but it's like there's so many things that he encountered along the way. And I'll be honest with you, man, I think sometimes even though it sucks, opposition can breed appreciation, I feel like sometimes. Because once you go through enough stuff and you're in the middle of stuff or you're fighting stuff or whatever the case is and you're facing stuff, it's like once you make it through it, you're like, oh, my God, thank you, Jesus. You're like, thank God that storm is over, and thank God those waves aren't as high, and thank God, I survived, or whatever the case is, man. And so for us, even those storms, man, can produce appreciation, I feel like, whenever we make our way through them,
Yeah, and I think, it's another one of those things that I think Christianity teaches us to flip on its head is, storms, those challenges, those trials in life. We oftentimes see them as something as, negative, something that we don't want to experience, something we don't want to go through, something we don't want to think about. But as Christians, there's so many different things in life that we're called to kind of flip on its head and flip the script on, and say, hey, storms aren't all bad. There are good things that can come from storms. You can learn things through storms.
Yeah.
You can achieve things through storms that you didn't think you could achieve before the storm. I mean, there's so many things that can come, through storms, and we've talked about that time and time again. How you take a piece of coal and you add a pressure to it and you get a diamond out of it, after time and pressure and all that kind of stuff. And there's so many different imagery type things you could throw at it with that. But I think it is important for us to remember that there are things that are going to create momentum in our lives that are going to push and build and create and move us forward. Towards whatever vision God has laid out for us or put in front of us. And it's going to be very easy for us to get comfortable, to sit there in the storm and just freak out, to sit there and not do anything. But just like in the stories that we were talking about in Acts, it would have been so easy for them to just give up and give in, when that ship is getting ready to wreck, or, when they're in the water trying to swim, or, when they're on the, beach and Paul gets bit by a snake, it's so easy. He could have just freaked out. But again, it's up to us to have, it's our responsibility as Christians, again, to rise above what the world would do in those situations. The world would give up, the world would give in, the world would freak out. But we're called, to do and be above that. When we're faced with trials, when we're faced with storms, when we're faced with pressure, when we're faced with fear, we're supposed to stand, firm and continue moving forward, not run backwards, not move forward, or not move backwards, but to move forward and to continue that momentum and keep making adjustments, keep making changes.
I feel like the whole town is on fire.
I feel like it has to be. I know we're going to have to check Facebook in a second to make sure that,
I'm checking right now, man.
I'm
sending out some contacts right now just to holler at somebody and say, hey, man, what's going on with all the sirens, But that's pretty crazy. I mean, I feel like we've heard like 87 in the past 10 minutes,
Ever since we started recording.
Yeah,
they just know.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, and it never happens until you hit the record button. That's the thing about it. We could probably sit here and talk for an hour. No sirens. Record button, 7 minutes. And it's like, what are we doing, man?
Somebody's going through some storms.
So definitely somebody going through some storms right now, man. Prayers appreciated to whoever's those sirens are going to for sure.
Yeah,
but
whatever, fire, wreck, or whatever is going on.
For real, man. And so like we said, we've been talking a couple of weeks here about Paul, about his voyage and things like that, and a couple of things that I want to point out is number one, we talked about the storm, about Paul first being on the ship, and they encounter a nor'easter, which is basically like hurricane type storm.
I thought we were talking about like Easter Bunny or something.
Nor'easter, I mean, it could have been like the Easter Bunny's cousin, maybe.
I was thinking something to do with like Thor and stuff.
No, man. I mean, it could have been. I mean, I don't know. It could have been a jacked Easter Bunny. I mean, I don't know. So, but you got this hurricane type storm. Paul's sailing. He told the people on the ship, "Hey, don't sail." They're like, who cares? We're doing it anyways. And as I was telling people, 92% of the stuff that we go through in life is not the devil, it's disobedience, man. It's not listening to the word and the will of God.
Hashtag Jonah.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's so many instances in the Bible where it's like, there's so much disobedience going on and people pay the price for it. And somehow we've got into modern day Christianity where disobedience is okay. God loves you; He'll forgive you. He's gracious towards you, and He is. But at the same point in time, it's as I've tried to teach people: just because you sow bad seed doesn't mean you're not going to get a bad harvest. Just because you ask for forgiveness in the middle of it. The seed doesn't change, Your perspective whenever the seed comes up and it's still bad and you're like, oh, man, your perspective changes because you've got forgiveness from it, but you're still gonna reap what you sow. That's what the Bible says. And so for us to understand that like we have to listen to God whenever God says to do something. Disobedience, the Bible says, is the same as witchcraft. And you start talking about stuff like that, we're like, oh, I just didn't listen to God today. It's okay. Well, not listening to God once could mess up the whole flow of something. Not listening to God once could literally, and I don't want to put this responsibility on people, but it's true. Like, you could miss the opportunity in someone else's life, man. Like, you think about that, about how if God speaks to you about pick up that phone or, and listen, I mean, this is just me being real with you. Like, I've had to get better about that. Like, somebody pop on my mind and I'll be like, I'll shoot him a text here in a little while. And I don't. Like 3 or 4 hours goes by and I'm like, oh, man, I was supposed to text them, and then I will, or whatever. But I'm like, man, what if in that moment, like if God puts somebody on your mind or on your heart, bam, pick that phone up, man, or do whatever. If you're close by, stop by, whatever. But, like, I think God does those things for a legit reason. And for us to be disobedient, man, it's just like, God, how many opportunities can we miss out of that,
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something that, we should be a little bit more aware of, because, I think there are times and opportunities where, God may lay somebody on your mind. Maybe you had a crazy dream about somebody you hadn't seen in 13,000 years or something, and you're like, why in the world would
13,000?
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking about, those
Moses?
I was like, I'm thinking about those Norse gods again, I guess.
I was going to say, did you miss Moses' FaceTime? Or, what happened, man?
I was going to say 13 years ago, and I was like, that's really not enough time, and so I just kept going on.
13,000.
Yeah,
he added
go crazy,
like 3
right?
zeros. Like, okay.
Anyway,
I see you.
So again, maybe you have a dream, maybe you think about somebody that you hadn't thought about or seen or talked to in years. You're like, why in the world am I thinking about this person? Maybe it's because God put them on your mind, to think about, to pray about in that moment. And I think we need to stop. And I think that's some advice we can use in a lot of different aspects of our life. Is when we think about something, do it. I think we get so bad about procrastinating. We get so comfortable in procrastination.
Right.
That we're just like, I'll do it later. It's not that big a deal. I'll do it later. But, it could be a big deal. It could be that person, not to get dramatic, but maybe that person is about to experience a car wreck and they need your prayers right there and then.
Hey.
Maybe something bad or crazy is about to happen to this person. Your prayers, what's going to, your obedience is what's going to protect that person's life.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty crazy to think about, but it's true. It's possible. I really do believe it's possible. So I think that's something we need to get better at as Christians is, when you feel, the pull of your heart to pray for somebody or you think about somebody that you have no reason to be thinking about and you're like,
right.
what in the world's going on here? Maybe that's God's, way of trying to tell you, hey, you need to take a minute here and pray for this person. Or, when God tells you to do something, don't put it off, do it.
Right.
Right. Just as Nike says, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Please sponsor this podcast. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Ghost Energy. We're drinking Ghost Energy. Hey, holler at them. Yeah. We're just trying to get all the shout outs. You know what I'm saying? Like, what else? I got Crocs on. Hey, shout out to Crocs. New Balance over there.
Yeah. The Barbie movie, Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
let's go.
Warner Brothers. If you got an iWatch on, Apple iWatch, man.
They're in trouble with their Apple Watches right now.
I know. I seen that, man. They said they were going to stop production. I feel like, right? They did stop. So, like Verizon right now is running a deal where if you bring in your phone, they give you, a titanium and a new phone. And they said, I thought I heard something about an iPad and a watch. Is that true?
I don't know. We're not advertising for Verizon.
Oh, well, I've got Verizon, so you can definitely Verizon if you're out
there. If you want us to do ad reads for you, reach out.
Gosh, man, we need them.
Throw it out there.
Yeah, we need them for sure. But yeah, man. So, listening to God is a huge, huge deal because if not, you're going to end up in storms. And that's exactly what these guys did. They ended up in storms. Now, again, the deal about storms is that as we've talked about, preached about, stuff like that, storms begin to show you what's important, man. Storms show you what's important because, like, at this point, they started tossing everything over the ship, man, like overboard. Food, the Bible said, rigging, things like that, like, stuff that they used on the boat. They were stuff that was important. They started throwing it over the ship, man, over the side because they were just trying to survive. And the Bible says that it went on for 2 weeks, dude. Like, there was no sunlight, no stars for 2 weeks. So it was dark, it was cloudy, it was, all of this good stuff, man. And I can only imagine, like, again, that's the storms of life sometimes. We get in those storms where we're like, there's no light, there's no hope. The wind is beating you. The Bible says that they put the anchors down and just let the wind drive them. And I feel like sometimes we can get so caught up in storms that we're just like, we let the wind, we let the storm drive us. It may drive us away from God. It may drive us away from church. It may drive us away from people, to almost to a point of seclusion sometimes. And it really starts to show us, I feel like storms show us what is really important. Like, what do you really need to focus on? And for us, maybe it's not accumulation of stuff, but maybe it's survival. Maybe storms teach us that surviving is the most important thing, and it's not always going to be the way you think that you're going to survive. It may not be with the people that you think you're going to survive with, or whatever the case is. Like, we have to understand that people come in our lives for a reason. People exit our lives for a reason. But, as we've learned from the text and even talking about it, man, I want to be a Paul where, like, I influence, people's lives. As I come into them, I influence their lives and try to bring that calm and that peace. Of course, I'm not very calm or peaceful most of the time, but I feel like that I can offer enough hope and peace through Jesus to give some peace.
Yeah, I think that's what we've talked about several times on here is, the world right now is in chaos. There's so much craziness going on. We're not necessarily in an actual physical, rain, lightning, thunder, tornado, storm, but there's all kinds of stuff going on right now, and it's causing storms in a lot of different people's lives. And as Christians, again, we are called to be higher than the world. We're called to do different than the world and be different than the world and look different than the world.
Right.
And so, in these trying times right now, if you're freaking out just as much as the world, then, what good is that to the kingdom of God?
Right. Yeah.
And so, if you're sitting there, worried about the stock market, worried about gas prices, worried about house prices, worried about this, worried about that, worried about a sickness, worried about a virus, worried about, if you're sitting there worried to death about everything going on in the world, then you're no different than the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, we have to be, different as Christians. We're called to be different. We're called to bring a hope, a peace to the world, a joy to the world. When everybody else is, freaking out, upset, scared, mad, depressed, angry, whatever, we're called to be different than that. We're called to be set apart from that. And we need to work on being more peaceful, more joyful, those fruits of the Spirit, more kind, more patient, more loving, all these sorts of things, because the world is freaking out right now. The world is in a storm, and we need to be the Paul in that storm. We need to make sure that, hey, look, we're going to make it. As you said, God told Paul, you're going to make it to Rome. So we need to make sure that we know we're going to make it to the end.
I was trying to figure out what you just said. I was like, did he meant to say calm in the storm? And he totally botched it. And then I was like, oh, the Paul in the storm. I got you. Yeah, I feel you now, man. I got you. But, it was funny that you were talking about like the world freaking out. And the Christians were not supposed to. Like, it paints a picture in my mind of what was going on the ship. Because the Bible says there was 276 people on that ship. And I can just imagine them freaking out and throwing everything, overboard and acting fools. And then I can imagine Paul just like sitting there. You know what I'm saying?
Reminds me of Jesus when he's on the boat in the storm and he's downstairs
and the
sleeping.
The disciples going crazy, man. But like, I could just imagine Paul just sitting still and hanging out because, he says that, that an angel visited him and said, do not worry. And the plan was, hey, if no one leaves this ship, you will make it. Not one person will die on this ship if everybody stays together. And that's, to me, man, that is an amazing thing is to see and to know that they could literally go without food for 2 weeks. Not only did they go without food for 2 weeks, but then Paul says, all right, he's like, we're about ready to shipwreck, which, again, that's crazy,
Cool.
It's like, oh, don't worry, we'll make it in to shore, but the ship's going to crash.
But not on the ship.
Exactly.
And it's not on the ship.
And that's what we were saying with the whole, like, means of transportation and, not really that, but just a conduit through life of how are you going to get there, and again, going back to the comfortability thing, we get so comfortable with the way we're doing things and it's at our fingertips that, what if there's a storm and your boat that you've been so comfortable in crashes? Are you going to know how to swim? Are you going to know how to float in on that plank? One thing that God really spoke to me about in the process was the fact of that we as people today, and again, I can't speak for everybody in the world. I know we have a world audience now. It feels good. I know that we have a world audience now, but I can't speak for everybody in the world. But I know, again, here in the U.S., I feel like we have a huge problem with trying to promote a different lifestyle through social media than what we actually live. And one thing that God really spoke to me about is that, we want to try to keep our ship together for social media. We want to try to keep our ship together and here's the thing about it, like, and just not to throw any or not to hold any punches back, but we're trying to keep our lives together and look pretty and perfect for people that could give two shakes less about us. Really, probably.
I got worried for a second.
I know, right? Whoa. We're about to go PG on these people tonight.
About to get an E beside our podcast.
Yeah. So, that's what I think. That's what I feel, man. Is that like we really try to put on a show and hold our ships together. Whenever God spoke and He said, "Man, you're going to make it, but it's not going to be the way you think, and you need to let that ship go." And you get right. You need to let that ship go. But that's the thing where, again, we start like planks wreckage is messy, and even though our lives are chaotic and are messy a lot of times, we don't want people to know that. We don't want people to know that we are messy people, that we make mistakes, that we fall short, that our life is in shambles. We would rather post on Facebook, again, and I've made this joke before, like, we'll post a perfect family photo, going to family Christmas or something, and it's like 30 seconds before that, you were yelling at the kids in the backseat, threatening them within an inch of their life. Got divorced twice over the stupidest thing ever, and then it's like, smile cheese, filtered, posted, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from, and it's like, may all your dreams and wishes come true, and it's like, Literally. I mean, that is not what was happening in that car ride 20 minutes before that.
I think it's important for us to take time to know, because I mean, that's something I struggle with too, is to realize that nobody has their crap together. Like nobody's ship is all in one piece. Like everybody is drifting around. Everybody's got their own storms going on. I mean, this person may have more money than you. This person may have a nicer car than you. This person may have a nicer house than you. This person may have, this, that, or the other. But it doesn't mean that they don't have their own struggles, their own storms, their own freakouts. Yeah. I mean, you think about, the people that you would consider, the cream of the crop, the people who have everything they could possibly want, like all these actors and stuff. You take, how many of them have died from drug overdose? How many of them struggle with depression? How many of them have anxiety problems so bad that they can't, handle it? Yeah. And, you would think they have everything that you could possibly dream of, imagine, or want, but they're still struggling. They're still having a hard time with life. And, I think that's something we need to just make sure we remember, and that, number one, don't be prideful. Don't think that you have it better than everybody else. Don't think that, and don't think you have to act like that. Don't think you have to act like you have it all together. It's okay to be vulnerable, and we've talked about the importance of that. Especially in a church service, it's okay to be vulnerable and to talk to people about your needs and to talk to people about what you're struggling with. Because again, everybody's struggling with something. We'd be stupid to think otherwise. And so it's important to be vulnerable about what we're going through. It's okay to say, hey, I've got a couple holes in my ship. I'm sinking a little bit. Right, I need some help. Help me patch this hole, please.
Well, let it break apart. Because I'm telling you, man, I loved reading this story, because every time, this is my favorite story, but every time I read it, God gives me something different. And so this time it was even focusing on what if the planks that fell apart in your life were so other people could float around you. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not just you. It's not just you in a storm. It's not just you in this storm. There's other people. There's other situations. And so if your life falls apart, maybe your life is falling apart to help somebody else.
And I think, as you were saying that, I'm reminded of something I thought about when you were talking earlier. But it's on this ship, there's 200 and something people.
276.
And then you got Paul there. And I said, sometimes, I think we have to realize that, and not to put a lot of weight and responsibility on people, but sometimes we have to realize that we are the only person who can bring God to the situation.
Yeah.
There are people out there, who are working jobs where they're the only Christian. They're the only person that goes to church in their work or in their job or wherever they're at. Know, and there's people in their schools, there's kids I'll talk to with the youth, they may be the only Christian in their class. And, sometimes, there may be situations that cause people to freak out at work. There's layoffs coming, there's cutbacks coming, there's, all kinds of bad things coming. There's a pop quiz nobody thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to again be that calm in that storm, be the Paul in that storm, and say, hey, this, we may crash, but we're going to crash together, and we're going to be okay. It's all going to make it out. We're all going to make it out. We're all going to be okay. You just have to, trust him, because again, people will notice that. Everybody else is freaking out. You're going to what's going on with Keenan over here? He's just sitting here chilling out. What are you doing, man?
Ship falling apart. What are you doing, man? What's your plan?
Yeah.
Whatever God's plan is.
Right.
And people, man, people need to see that. They really do. But again, that goes back to that comfort level of not being comfortable on the ship, not being comfortable when it's not storming, but being comfortable in God's plan for your life and His calling for your life.
It's one other thing that Paul says. He's I've been with and I've been without. And I think that's something important for us to remember, is that, God has got you with and God has got you without. When you feel like you have everything together, God's got you. And when you feel like you have nothing together, God's still got you. When you feel like, you're broker than you've ever been, God's still got you. And when you've got more than you've ever had, God's still got you. And everything is because of God. Everything works together because of God. Yeah. And leaning on that and relying on that is very important, and to let people know that, hey, there's been times when I've been down in the deep, shipwrecked, floating in, but there's been times when I've been, flying on the Autobahn in a McLaren. I've been flying, doing great, doing awesome.
Been doing that?
I wish, man. I
was like, man, who do you know has a McLaren?
Right, I know. But
when have you been out of the country?
When have I been out of the state? You didn't know I went to Germany?
Yeah. Come on, man.
But again, I just, it's important for us to realize, or to emulate that, to say, hey, God's got me in every situation. It doesn't matter if I've got everything or if I've got nothing. Seemingly, I still have everything because I have God.
Right.
And I think that's the importance that we need to portray to the people around us, because if not us, they may never get it from anybody. Because again, God puts us in situations where we may be the only voice. And I think that's what's crazy to me. And I'd like not to get too deep into another story here, but as I was reading Jonah the other day, kind of similar to this situation. But it was interesting to me how Jonah was disobedient to God, and it put him on a ship going in the opposite direction.
525 miles.
But because he disobeyed God and went in the other direction, he led other people to God.
Yeah.
And it was pretty crazy is that God can use disobedience sometimes to lead other people to Him as well.
Yeah.
Which was pretty wild to me. But again, not to get too deep into another story, but just understanding that God can work through any situation.
Yeah.
You may be screwing up 10 times over. God can still use you in that situation.
Right.
God can still make that situation something better than you've made it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just important for us to remember that sometimes we are the only person that has that peace, or that should have that peace, and that tranquility and that joy in every situation that we're in.
Yeah, and so we've said this 1,000 times, and I'll say this to kind of bring it to a close, but if God said that you were going to Rome and you haven't made it to Rome yet, then guess what? No matter what you encounter on the way to Rome is not going to take you out. So, as we've told the church many a times, if God spoke to you about something, if He's revealed something to you, it may be a certain time, place, season that you're supposed to get to. Maybe a new job, maybe a marriage, maybe you're moving, maybe whatever the case is. If God has, and within your heart, God has spoke to you about something in that regards, and you've not got there yet, then whatever you face before you get there will not take you out. It is not meant to take you out. It's meant for you to go through it, but it's not meant for you to be taken out by it, because you are not to where God has spoke to you about yet. So that's something I feel like that you can really embrace. That's something that I've had to embrace, is the fact of that, is to remember what God spoke about and to remember what God spoke. So therefore, if I've not seen it yet, no matter what I face is not going to take me out from what God spoke. I have to remember that.
And I try to live life with that kind of mindset. And it's been hard, and I think I've gotten a lot better about it this year. We are wrapping up the year. But I think I've gotten a lot better at it this year of just, I've gotten, I don't want to say it in a prideful way, but it's I've almost gotten so secure in that now when people freak out about stuff, it almost makes me mad.
Right, right.
The world's going to end, there's going to be wars, there's going to be nuclear wars, and things are going to go crazy. Sickness is going to take. I'm just who cares?
Yeah.
God's got me. And I ain't gonna, my life is not gonna end until God says it's time for it to end.
Right.
And I was I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be faithful, and I'm gonna be, trusting in God. I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do, and believe that God's got me through any situation, anything that comes our way. If nuclear war comes across the world, I'm still gonna trust that God has a plan and that God's gonna take care of me, and I'm gonna end up where I'm supposed to end up at the end.
Absolutely.
And we just need to hold on to that mindset that no matter what's going on in the world around us, no matter what storm we're in, no matter if situations aren't working out the way we thought they were supposed to, no matter if there's rumors of war, actual war, sickness, plagues, whatever is going on, God's got you, and God's not going to let you go until it's time to let you go.
Amen, man. And so hopefully tonight you've taken something, or tomorrow, or whenever you listen to this, hopefully you'll take something from this, that God is in control. He's ultimately in control, and that we just need to trust His plan and what He spoke to us and what He's called us to do. And man, I tell you what, don't put your mic down yet, because I got to thinking, I'm like, man, this is Tuesday, but we're not going to tape another episode before Christmas, man. So, thank you guys so much, first off, for hitting that download button. Thank you for making People Suck, Love Them Anyways not just something that people talk about in our little community or in our state. Or in states around us. But thank you for making People Suck, Love Them Anyway something that people are downloading in the world. That is fantastic, man. That is amazing to me. And so thank you for that. And on behalf of my co-host, I'm not going to make him say Merry Christmas, because you would not want to experience Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
But on behalf of Nick and myself, man, I just want to say Merry Christmas. Thank you so much again for supporting, for hitting that download button. We hope that you have a safe holiday season, that you're able to spend it with family and friends, and that you're truly blessed. So we love you. We thank you. And until we see you again, man, be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
As always, this is PKR, and for my sidekick Nick, we say thank you very much for hitting that download button on People Suck, Love 'Em Anyways. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member to hit that download button as well. And as always, we say thank you. Be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.